Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by these guests will help our community. Today's guest, her name is Vicky Schneps. She is an entrepreneur, and actually she has started the one newspaper from her living room, and now she owns 75 media and digital newspapers. It will be a very interesting interview, and we would learn a lot from her. So let's begin her interview. Vicky, thank you so much for coming today. And I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy woman.
This is wonderful. Thank you.
And I really appreciate it. And I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot from you today. The whole intention is to learn from you how to be an entrepreneur, from kitchen table to owning 70
living room
plus.
sofa.
Okay, living room sofa. All right, so
I never go into a kitchen. I make it a rule. I just eat the food, but I don't go in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. All right, so that's good, the living room sofa.
Yes.
Right, yeah. So we're going to learn a lot from you, and your story, I know you for like, a year or at least more than a couple of years. And I know that, your story really inspires us. A lot of people, it inspires a lot of people. And our intention is to really hear from you. And what is your advice to the viewers of this show? Because, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs here who are watching this show.
Yes.
And we want to say that, okay, well, what can you tell us about, that can really go and get up from the sofa and build whatever
Yes.
whatever you built.
Yes,
so
yes.
that's what our intention is
Okay.
today. So let's start with your background first. That how while growing up,
Well, I'm a Brooklyn-born girl.
Okay.
And now Brooklyn is very sexy, so you could say it, with pride. But my journey really started, I was a teacher and I got my master's degree in teaching. I call it my first life.
Okay.
My second life was when my daughter, Lara, was born.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly, she turned blue in the nursery and suffered what came out to be irreparable brain damage.
Oh boy.
And so we began the journey to find help for Lara, to get first the diagnosis, and then once we were told what we needed intense physical and occupational therapy. And it just didn't exist in the community. She was born in 1968.
Wow. Okay.
And so we began our journey to find where help is. And there was a place on Staten Island called the Willowbrook School that had built, just the year before, an infant rehabilitation center. And they promised to give Lara occupational therapy, physical therapy, but she had to live there. And it was on Staten Island. And so we, with many tears and trepidation, but hope, we brought Lara to Willowbrook on Staten Island. And I lived in this wonderful complex in Bayside, Queens, where the women in the early 70s didn't work. They were bringing up their children, and they came to me. And each one said, Vicky, there but for the grace of God go I. My kids are healthy. How can I help you? And so we created the Women's Organization for Retarded Children. That was politically correct in those days.
Wow.
And we started volunteering by sending literally busloads of volunteers every weekend to Willowbrook. It was a place that had 5,400 people living.
Wow.
And my daughter's buildings were in the back with they're called the baby buildings. And we started raising money for the people who were at Willowbrook. And within a year, the budget of the facility was slashed. And the people who took direct care, my daughter Lara was never able to sit up. She couldn't feed herself. She had to be diapered. She needed total care. They slashed the people who were caring for these folks that have such great needs. And so my lovely ladies from Bayside became marchers and picketers.
Oh, wow.
And we marched and picketed and tried to raise our voice for restoring the cuts that the budget had been made by Governor Rockefeller.
Oh, okay.
And we were knocking on air. Nobody heard us until a cub reporter from Eyewitness News called Geraldo Rivera
Right.
was snuck in by a doctor
Uh-huh.
who worked at Willowbrook,
Uh-huh.
and his coverage shocked the city.
Ah.
I'll never forget his words. He says, I can show you the pictures. I could let you hear the moaning, the sounds, but how do I describe the smell?
Wow. Wow.
And so Geraldo used me as the parent spokesperson. And while I was sharing my journey about Lara, my husband at the time, a lawyer, was working with the Parents Association
Right.
to file a federal class action lawsuit.
Oh, you mean to the state, on the state?
Federal.
Federal.
In the federal courts, we went to the federal courts because the funds at Willowbrook
Oh, there was
came
some
from the federal government to the state, and the
Right,
state
right,
brought
right.
it down to the city.
Right.
So we filed a federal class action lawsuit. Lara was a named plaintiff, Lara Rebecca Schneps,
Wow.
and we won that case.
Ah. Wow.
And my organization of wonderful women were joined by some very special men, and we decided to change our name to WORC, Working Organization for Retarded Children.
Oh, okay.
And we decided to change our mission to opening group homes, not just raising money. And so the consent decree that was signed, the court case, actually forced the state to provide money to open a group home, but no group home could open without a day program. So we called it a protected class. And they were protected that they had to have a place to live and a place to go to school. And so our organization opened the very first group home for children in New York State in a community called Little Neck in Queens, just at the border of Nassau,
Nassau County,
in
right,
Little
yeah.
Neck. And in that, buying that home, the neighbors sued us. And they said, we don't belong here. We should be in a manufacturing zone.
Oh, wow.
So we had another lawsuit, but another victory.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
And the children that came out of Willowbrook, 5,400, and into the community over the few years, we placed some of them in our organization, WORC. And those children that came to us came with a plastic bag of all their worldly possessions.
Wow. Wow.
And as they walked up the stone steps to the house, they looked, where are they? What is this? And their smiles came onto their faces. And we've always worked with the most disabled of children because my daughter was so disabled that I wanted to help children like my Lara. The Willowbrook School on Staten Island is now the College of Staten Island.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And the people who lived at Willowbrook now live in group homes all over New York State. And the case we were sued on gave everybody the right to have a group home in an R1 and 2, which is residential neighborhoods.
Right, right.
So we made law on 2 cases.
Wow.
And then I went on to have 3 more children.
Right,
The Schneps clan grew. And I always had in back of my mind that look at the effect Geraldo had, the power of the press.
Right, right. Media.
And I said, someday I'd like to be in the news business. And after my other children were born and my baby Josh, who's now my CEO, was in school, I met a man who took a buyout from the Daily News. And my neighborhood in 1985, all the buildings went co-op.
Okay. Okay.
And I knew that if I had neighborhood that people owned their apartments or their homes, they'd want to know what's going on in their neighborhood, that they would like a community newspaper that reports on their neighborhood. So I went to this man who took a buyout from the Daily News, and I said, I think we could start a newspaper right here in Bayside. And he says, you think you can sell a few ads? I said, well, I think so. I'll sell it to my mother, my father, my brother, my realtor, my hairdresser.
All in the family.
All the family. And that's how I got started in my living room
Oh, wow.
with
wow.
one newspaper, a
Wow.
prayer and a dream.
Oh, wow.
And John was my partner to start, but he was a political editor and I was a community activist. So, so John and I used to fight every week what should go in the paper. And after about a year or two, I got confidence and I said, you know, John, I think it's time we say goodbye.
Oh.
And I bought him out.
Oh, okay.
So I owned the papers by myself.
Okay.
And people started coming to me. Could you serve my neighborhood outside of Bayside? Could you serve me in Forest Hills? Could you serve me in Astoria? So I started opening newspapers in all of those other neighborhoods in Queens.
Wow, interesting.
And then I found a census report that showed the tremendous growth in the Spanish community.
Right.
So I said, you know, I know a lot of people from the Hispanic communities. Let me have a focus group. Maybe they could use a community newspaper. And we had somebody from Dominican Republic, somebody from Colombia, somebody from Peru, from Spain, from Ecuador, around a table. And I said, do you think your community is ready for a community newspaper in Spanish? And they pointed to me and said, Vicki, we need it, and you're going to be successful because you're a gringo. Because you will not show prejudice over one group from the other.
Right.
And so I started from scratch in that living room with that sofa.
Wow.
A Spanish language paper in Queens.
So you were still in the living room at that time.
Well,
like you had one
I had that
newspaper.
one
What was
sofa.
the first
the
newspaper?
sofa.
What is the name
Queens
of
Courier.
it? Queens Courier. Okay, that was the first one.
That was our first one. So the Queens Courier then gave birth to El Correo, and then we had a Forest Hills Courier and a Southeast Courier and an Astoria Courier.
Oh.
And then I was blessed because my son, who was in investment banking, called me one day and said, you know, Mom, if I'm going to work 24/7, can I join your company? And I never believed in asking my children to join the business because it's a business you must have passion for.
Right.
You know, it's in my brain 24/7.
Right.
And my son said that he would love to be a part of it. So I had an office in Bayside and I had another office in Howard Beach. And he went to work in the Howard Beach office. And it was the best decision I ever made.
Wow. Okay.
Because Josh had this whole digital world that he understood.
Right.
And so he created websites for every newspaper we own.
Okay.
And today, little by little, we expanded. So he heard about papers in Brooklyn that were for sale.
Right.
In Bay Ridge, and we bought those in Bay Ridge and Brooklyn.
Wow.
And then he heard about my baby, the Long Island Press, being for sale, and the Best of Long Island being for sale. And let me see, I think I have it hidden back here, my Best of Long Island, the wonderful brand, the Best of Long Island.
Yeah.
And so we bought this from Jed Morey as a digital property, as longislandpress.com.
Right.
And we put it back in print.
Wow. Or you put it back to print.
So we put it back in print, and it's just about, let's see, what year was it? About 2 years ago.
Okay.
It's not even 2 years, about a year and a half ago. And it's been so well received. I'm so proud that the print is still alive.
Still alive, right. People still want to see it, hold it in their hand,
Yes. So we call it two petals to the metal.
Right.
One is print, one is digital.
Right.
And I believe that Mark Twain said it best. The rumors of my demise are greatly exaggerated. So in fact, print is alive, it's well. We bought a magazine, a website in Brooklyn called Brownstoner, and the young reporters, all the generation Z, X, Y, he said, you know, we've wanted a magazine. Would you make us a magazine?
Wow.
So here are these digital kids said they wanted to see their work in print.
Wow. Interesting.
So we created a beautiful tabletop, shiny, glossy magazine.
Okay.
So, you know, this has been a great journey. And I'm so blessed to have my son and a great team. And this last weekend, we belong to a New York State Press Association.
Right.
And we actually acquired another media company just 6 months ago. And between all these media, I own 75 media outlets.
Wow,
In
75.
Long Island, New York City, and Westchester.
Wow. From
And
Queens.
from this weekend, though, I'm so proud. We were at our state association press convention conference, and they have a competition. I call it the Oscars of the industry.
Right, right.
And we won 27 awards.
Wow, 27 awards. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow.
And I'm so proud of my team because, the love and caring we have for community
Right,
and professional reporting of community
right.
was acknowledged by our Professional Press Association. So it's a great journey, this thing called life.
No, I think, but it's, see, it's like that, behind everything, it's you really.
Well,
Obviously,
and my
your
son-
son, your son is definitely is a, key asset of the whole thing because, his career being in investment banking, he knows how to buy and
Yes,
things
he's
like
he's
that.
the number. I don't
He's-
like that part of the business. I just want to make sure there's enough money in the bank to pay the bills and the payroll. But he's very exacting.
Exactly.
Yes.
So he knows what what is for sale and how to buy, how to make a deal kind
Yes,
of thing, right?
yes.
But he makes a deal, or you also get involved in making
Well,
a
I
deal,
get
right?
involved,
Well,
but
of course.
but he does all the detail. He's a very detail-oriented person with
Oh,
the
okay.
numbers.
Okay.
And so we've been very blessed that each acquisition has been working well and successful. So, we put our passion behind it, and we have great people around us. And I think that that's the key to success for us is the passion and the people.
Well, without that, nothing happens, obviously, right? People is the key for any organization.
Absolutely.
People is the key, right?
Absolutely
Right,
true.
yeah.
So
now
I'm very blessed.
From Queen's career to 75, owning the 75, newspapers and media companies.
Websites,
And websites.
print. We like to have the two pedals to the metal: print and digital.
Print and digital. Well, that's
And then forgot to tell you, we came up with another thing.
okay. Okay.
So here I was at a Chamber of Commerce annual business awards,
Right.
and they had a huge dais of business winners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the whole group of business winners,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't one woman on the dais.
Mm-hmm.
So I said then and there, I am going to create a Power Women in Business event.
Wow.
And that's
okay,
how I
okay.
started my
That's how you
first
started.
event in Queens.
Wow. Okay.
And then as we bought papers in Brooklyn, we did it in Brooklyn. Now that we own papers in Long Island, we're doing the Power Women of Long Island.
Wow.
So from that event, the men came to me.
Right.
Vicky,
Right.
Vicky, are we chopped liver? Why are you not
discriminating
paying
us?
attention to us? So we do the Kings of.
Right. Kings of Long Island.
And then my son said, Mom, we got to recognize people who are the next generation.
Right.
So we created stars under 40.
Wow.
And then we did technology with ListNet. We did a technology health conference. And then
Right.
we do real estate conferences and health conferences. And that turned into a 50 events a year
50 events a year. That's once a week.
all over New York City.
All over the New York City. My
And I have a
goodness.
separate team that just runs events.
Oh, so you have a separate team in your organization who
Right.
runs just
That's
the
all they're
events.
responsible for is the
But
events.
you are everywhere, right?
Yes.
Right. So you are like in 50 weeks. You are busy in events.
Many nights.
Many nights.
Many nights.
So what is your work day? Like when you start working? I know that
Well, I get up at 7 and I swim every day.
Oh, you do.
Oh, yes.
Oh, very nice.
I work
Okay.
out every day. And I find that that's a very important component to my mental and physical health. So I do work out every day, usually, between 7 and 8. And I'm a lover of breakfast. And then I'm either on the phone with people or going into one of my offices. And we have an office in Brooklyn.
Right.
We have an office in Bayside. We have an office in Long Island. And we have an office in the Bronx.
Right.
So depending upon that, and then I just created, as of 2 months ago, a thing called podcasts.
Oh, okay.
So I do a Power Women podcast.
Power Women podcast.
Right.
Wow.
So we really have a wonderful little interview with women about how they were brought up, what in their upbringing made them feel they could be so successful. What do they do now?
Right.
And what are their keys to success?
Right.
So I do podcasts, and we have this wonderful opportunity to have the Power Women on podcasts.
Wow. Okay. So it's a weekly thing.
Well, once it's up, it's up.
Okay.
and you know this world
Right.
of putting things up.
Right.
So
right.
we have Schneps-Broadcasting.com.
Okay. Okay.
And
Wow.
people go to Schneps-Broadcasting.com, or they go like you do to YouTube or wherever podcasts are heard. And we have these wonderful women to listen to as their success stories.
So because New York is obviously a mix of the whole world actually. People are there from every part of the
That's
world here,
right.
right? So you do get a lot of different kind of cultural values from all these women that who come to you and all these people rather. Right?
Absolutely. I
and
think the diversity of
melting
our
pot.
city is a melting pot. And I think that we are the model for what the world will be like. Because we all cherish our cultures,
Right.
but we live side by side peacefully with each other.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I agree.
And that's one of my missions, is to bring people from different cultures together
Right, right.
and
right,
to
right.
get to know each other. Because when we get to know each other like we did, we love each other because we know
Right.
we all have the same goals. We want our family to be safe. We want our children to be safe. We want a good life for them. And everything else is chatter.
Right, right, right.
We all have the same goals.
Same goal. Everybody has the same goal. They just want to be safe and they want to live peacefully and they just want to have good life for children and their family basically.
Yes.
Right.
So I think if we understand that we're more similar
right, right,
than we
right,
are different,
right, right,
there's the
right,
power of connecting. And because when you get to know someone,
Right.
hello, you can't not but love you.
Right, right, right.
How lovely to be here today.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah. So as I see that here, you said like most of your growth is kind of acquisition. A lot of your growth is acquisition, acquiring different newspapers and different things. And most of the obviously, Josh plays a bigger role. His son plays a bigger role in kind of finding out who is available, what are the key things, right? And then what is what are the challenges that you face? And you buy. Obviously, any newspaper that you buy, you have a lot of, like people are attached to
Yes.
it. The staff is attached
Yes.
to it. And you may not need everybody there and things like that.
Well,
So-
we're very blessed that we get it, that it's the people that make our company.
Right.
So for us, in each acquisition,
Right.
we have retained the leadership
Okay. Okay.
of
So you
those
retain the
companies.
leadership.
And
Okay.
the key people. Because usually the person who owns it, they're not interested to be involved anymore. That's why they sold it to me.
Right. Right.
But many times they've got key staff
Right.
that we embrace and we keep.
Right.
There are certain synergies of size.
Right.
Rather than have 10 offices, we have 3 or 4. We have one bookkeeper instead of 5,
Oh,
one
okay.
controller
Oh,
instead
got
of.
it, got it.
So there's some economies of scale
Right. Right.
that do work
right.
out.
Right. Yeah.
And, we are really a very digital focused and print focused, and people have to buy into the digital piece
Right. Right. Yeah.
because we believe that everything is mobile friendly that we do.
Right.
And we've kind of analyzed that people under 40 like everything on their mobile phone.
Absolutely.
And people
now
over
this
40
is a new
still,
world actually.
still like to, read the paper. So
Right.
we really are both journalists must be buying into that. And, we're always looking for good people in sales so that we can always expand our sales department.
Right. Okay.
Everything is driven by sales.
Right. Yeah.
And we're very blessed to have great leadership in that direction too.
Okay.
But I do think that we're very blessed that if we stay true to our neighborhoods, I call us the pothole newspaper. Nothing so small as that pothole is what we must cover.
Right. Right.
And if we're
right.
true to our neighborhoods, I believe people will read us
Wow. Okay.
because they want to know what's happening in their backyard. Why didn't that street get paved?
Right. 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 Right.
That's
right.
our job to tell them.
That's your job to do, like Manhasset Press, and we get Manhasset Press, like, similar to that.
Town
right,
papers
basically.
are, thank God, being healthy, and people realize the power that we bring to a business that wants to advertise.
Right.
We bring the power of communication in a quality way, and nobody's ever accused me of fake news.
All right. That's a big thing, right?
Oh my
Fake
God.
news. Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, so it's a great journey, this thing called life.
Good, good. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Please stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. We are having a wonderful conversation with Vicky Schneps, and she is the owner of 75 print and digital newspapers and media outlets. So we're happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Obviously, you made this organization happen, and there has to be a lot of challenges that you have faced. So can you recall any challenges, and how did you, kind of tackle those challenges?
Well, I think
what is the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge is always the people.
Okay.
Getting the right people in the right positions.
Right.
Nothing is more important than having the right people working for you.
Right.
And finding people that are buying into the philosophy of the company, the mission of the company.
Right.
And we were so delighted to win all these awards based on the quality of our news coverage. We own niche publications like Gay City News. And that whole world of the gay world, and then we have Caribbean Life, that is designed specifically for the Caribbean American communities.
Right. Wow.
And then we have the Spanish papers. On Long Island, we have Noticia,
Right.
which is a wonderful quality Spanish paper that is community news in Spanish for Long Island. And so these are always the challenges in business of having the right people
Right.
for the right positions.
Right. Yeah. I think you're right. Because people make success or failure, and if you have the right people, then everything can go right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I know you press for time, and we can talk for a long time. So,
Yes.
But considering your constraint on the time that you do have to go to other event, I wanted to ask you something that let's go into like your personal. What do you like for food, and what do you do outside of, like you said, you do exercise in the morning, and that makes you kind of fit and happy. What else you do
Well,
as a hobby?
I have 6 grandchildren.
Wow. Okay.
Each of my 3 children have 2 children, a boy and a girl.
Okay.
And they are my treasures.
Yep.
And I call them my legacy.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Great.
So I'm very blessed that my daughter, whose husband passed away, lives with me. My husband passed away, her husband passed away. And I said, come live with me, with the children.
Wow.
What a treat to wake up to them every morning.
Wow.
They're now 7 and 10.
Okay.
And we just recently celebrated my grandson's 13th birthday, which is a big mark in the Jewish faith. So we had a bar mitzvah to celebrate him. So, that's also a big part of my life, are my grandchildren.
Right.
And we're very happy that 4 of them live, 2 with me, 2 5 minutes away, and my son lives in Williamsburg in Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So he has 2 children, and
Okay.
they're a little bit more of a challenge because they're in Brooklyn. But they're in Brooklyn, they're not in far away.
Right. Right.
So that's a big part of my fun, and of course, I adore traveling around the world
Oh, okay. So you do travel a lot
whenever I can.
whenever you can, obviously.
I believe that you have to work hard,
Right.
but you must play as well.
Absolutely. Balance of life is very important.
So I'm taking 4 of my grandchildren away on a vacation in spring, and then I'm taking all of my family, all my children, to Israel in the summer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I even went on a safari all by myself.
Oh, is that right? Wow. Okay.
As a widow, it was my husband's dream to go on a safari.
Uh-huh.
And I said to him, Stu, I'm going to do it.
So-
And I went with this wonderful travel company, Mikado. And they greeted me as I exited the plane, and they held my hand throughout South Africa, going to Cape Town and going on to Kruger National Park.
Right.
What an
right,
adventure.
Right. Wow.
So
Wow.
I went by myself.
You went yourself, huh? You were with other people, I guess.
It was a tour. There
Yeah,
were
it
2
was
of
a
us
tour,
on the
so
tour.
right, right. Oh, there were
they,
only
they
2?
guarantee that, how many
Oh.
people come to the tour, they run.
Yeah,
And so
okay.
there was a tour. A man who was gave himself the trip as his 40th birthday present.
Wow. Okay.
So he was from Chicago, and it was. I think there's something about me that loves finding other cultures to visit, and just sipping it all up.
You know, you learn a lot actually from
Yes.
every culture that you learn a lot. Different culture, you definitely learn a lot from each other.
Yes.
And that's why we are fortunate in New York that we do have different cultures. I mean, you look at it and how many different, when I walk on Sunken Meadow Park, on the boardwalk, and I see so many different dialogues, while
Yes.
just walking one side.
Yes, yes.
Different people, talking different
It's a
language.
wonderful world.
It's a wonderful world for us
It is.
here.
Thank you so much for having me here
Yeah.
today.
No problem. And lastly, that if you have any advice for our young entrepreneurs who are, the viewers are, many of them are entrepreneurs. So if you have any advice for them, that obviously you're a very successful lady.
Thank you.
And we want to say that if there is any advice that you can give us,
Hard work.
hard work.
There is nothing to beat hard work.
Right. Okay.
You put in the time, you care and have a passion for what you do. I think those two things of having passion and working hard would be, I think, the most important things towards trying to achieve. But not trying, I never use the word try. No one's allowed in my office to use try. I will, I do, I am.
That's it.
But I feel that it's critical that you must put in time to build, and you don't start at the top. I built from 1 to 2 to
Right.
3 to 4, little by little.
Right.
But
And it has
doing
to
what
come
I
from
love.
here. It has to come from here,
Yes,
right? I mean, obviously, you have to love what you're doing,
yes,
and you have to put in hard work, as you said.
that's right.
And combination of that can,
It's not that complicated.
there's no other choice but to
Right.
succeed,
Thank you.
right?
Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. That again, rajmitv@gmail.com. You can watch our prior shows on YouTube at youtube.com/Infosys International. That's again youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a safe week.